amazing billionaire hid in plain sight as a poor worker, heartwarming love revealed in one night. Jake brushed a grime-covered hand across his forehead, wiping away the sweat that mingled with oil. The auto repair shop buzzed around him, filled with the scent of rubber and welding sparks. For a small-town mechanic like Jake, the sounds of clanking tools and flipping wrenches were the soundtrack of his life. But today, the weight of overdue bills pressed down on his chest, making it harder to breathe. With 3 kids and a loving wife, Mary, to support, the pressure was crushing. They were counting on him. As the annual town fair approached, dreams danced in his mind afloat, showcasing his restored truck, a moment of triumph, a smile from Mary as she waved proudly from the sidelines. But as weeks dragged by, his vision faded further. The more he worked, the deeper he sunk into a pit of despair. He couldn't do it alone. His initial excitement turned to panic, a tightening grip in his chest that wouldn't let go. Across the room, Ryan observed the toil. New to town, he mixed with the rest of the mechanic's rough hands, hearty laughs, and tales of late-night shifts. But Jake was different. He saw something more, a man weighed down by responsibility. Ryan felt an unexplainable urge to help as he admired Jake's dedication. He was just a quiet stranger, ignoring the billionaire ties that cloaked his identity, seeking solace among grease-stained camaraderie. "Hey, Jake," Ryan called one night as they worked late, the two of them shoulder to shoulder beneath bright fluorescent lights. "If you ever need an extra hand, I'm here." Jake paused, catching the sincerity in Ryan's voice. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in the dim light. A spark of friendship formed among their shared hardships. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. One fateful evening, chaos erupted. A massive crash at the family shop had every heart in the shop racing. A truck had come barreling through the front. The shop was in disarray, frantic cries resonating off the steel walls. In those critical moments, as they rushed to assess the damage and help those injured, Ryan's well-guarded truth spilled over. When he showed his wealth and status, townsfolk gasped, whispers unraveling like threads. In a blink, his anonymity vanished. Jake stood beside him, a confusing mix of relief and disappointment washing over him. He felt betrayed, but there was no time for judgments. A fellow father was in need, and together, they raced against the clock. As the dust settled, Jake realized that amidst shifting perspectives, the bond they'd forged remained steadfast. Could their friendship withstand the scrutiny of judgmental eyes? Jake's heart raced as he questioned the worth of connection over wealth, craving a sense of belonging in a world thrumming with contrasting values. Soon, the town fair loomed larger than before, a loving celebration awaited, but could true camaraderie transcend the barriers of judgment and societal pressure? The morning after the chaotic night at the shop, Jake woke up to an uneasy silence. The usual sounds of his children playing and Mary bustling about were absent. He sat up, the weight of uncertainty settling heavily on his chest. Ryan's revelation echoed in his mind, and the abrupt shift in their friendship loomed large. As he walked to the kitchen, he found Mary seated at the table, a look of concern etched on her face. "Jake, I heard about the accident. Is everyone okay?" she asked, her voice soft yet urgent. "Yeah, they're fine," he replied, forcing a smile. But in that moment, it felt hollow. How could he explain the turmoil brewing inside him? The man who had stepped in to help was also a billionaire, a duality that complicated everything. Over breakfast, Mary's eyes sparkled with hope. "The fair is just around the corner. You should take the truck. It'll be a beautiful sight. Everyone will be there to see your hard work pay off." The enthusiasm in her voice tugged at his heart. But the thought of Ryan's wealth overshadowed those dreams. clouding the bright colors of celebration with shades of doubt. Later that day, Jake found himself at the shop, silently polishing the truck, the sun glinting off its restored paint. Ryan arrived, a lingering shadow of apprehension clouding his features. "Hey, Jake. I've just wanted to check in," he said hesitantly, stepping through the threshold. "I'm busy," Jake replied curtly, his hands moving mechanically over the surface of the truck. Tension hung between them, thick as smoke. Ryan took a step closer. "I messed up, didn't I? I didn't mean to hide it from you. Being a mechanic, it felt freeing. But I was wrong to keep that side of me hidden." Jake turned around, anger simmering just below the surface. "You think you can just waltz in here with your money and save the day? It doesn't work like that. This isn't a fairy tale, Ryan." "I'm not trying to be a hero," Ryan replied, his voice steady. "I'm just a guy who wants to help. Can't you see that?" Jake shook his head, frustration boiling over. "You think it's easy for me to have you come in here, with your world of privilege, and pretend none of it matters?" Ryan took a deep breath, the air around him thick with a mix of hope and regret. "Listen, I know I come from a different world. But I'm here, Jake. I'm here because I believe in you." A flicker of vulnerability crossed Jake's face, caught between pride and the desperate wish for support. The pressure he felt all along seeped beneath the bravado. What if he did lean on Ryan? What if he let someone in? "Fine," he muttered, his voice quieter. "Help me with the truck then. Let's see what you can do." A tentative truce formed in that moment, a flickering flame of possibility igniting in the space between them. As they worked side by side, Jake glanced sideways at Ryan. The man who had just seconds ago felt like an unwelcome intruder now strangely felt like a partner. Could friendship grow from the ashes of doubt? Could they redefine their connection, unshackled by societal judgment? A swirl of emotions gathered as the town fair approached. The anticipation was intoxicating, but so was the uncertainty of acceptance within their community. A melting pot of excitement and fear made his heart race in anticipation. Jake stood back, taking in the glowing truck. Maybe this fair wouldn't just be about the ride, perhaps it could become an opportunity to redefine who he was alongside Ryan. But would the townsfolk embrace them both, or would judgment reign in the face of the unknown? The fair loomed ahead, a tapestry of dreams tangled with threads of reality waiting just moments away from unraveling. The day of the fair arrived, painted vibrant with the colors of hope and trepidation. Jake stood in the parking lot, heart pounding against his ribcage as he watched people gather. The air was thick with the smells of fried dough and sweet cotton candy. Laughter floated around him, a stark contrast to the anxious knot in his stomach. Mary handed him a cup of coffee, her eyes reflecting the same mix of excitement and concern. "You're ready for this. Just be yourself. They LLC your hard work." "Easy for you to say," Jake murmured, his gaze fixed on the crowd. He could already hear whispers, feel the weight of scrutiny pressing down. What if they saw him as less? What if they judged Ryan? As the townfolk wandered, Jake stole glances at Ryan, who was deep in conversation with a group of locals. Ryan's relaxed demeanor drew people in, laughter spilling over like sunshine. Jake envied that ease, wishing he could feel the same. The call to gather around the display area pulled the crowd together. They surrounded the truck, eyes wide with admiration. Jake felt pride swell in his chest, a flicker of hope igniting. The truck's transformation became a reflection of him. But doubts still lurked at the edges. "Look at that beauty!" someone shouted, breaking through Jake's thoughts. The words hung in the air, radiated around them. He couldn't help the small smile creeping onto his face. Then Ryan stepped up beside him, hands tucked casually in his pockets. "You did all this, Jake," he said softly, almost reverently. "And you know what? They're not just here for the truck. They're here for you." Jake's breath hitched. "Do you really believe that?" It felt surreal to hear the confidence in Ryan's voice, to have someone believe not just in the work, but in him. Yeah, I do. And I get it, Ryan replied, sincerity shining in his eyes. I might be from a different world, but right here, with you, it feels like home. Like a knot unraveling, Jake's walls began to crack. He hadn't let anyone in for years, had built those walls so high. But Ryan's presence softened the edges, like the warmth of the sun breaking through clouds. As the fair kicked off, children ran past, laughter dancing through the air. Jake watched them, imagining his own kids, hoping they'd feel the joy of this moment. Would they see him? Would they see the man he was beneath all the struggle? His heart thudded louder when he caught sight of Mary at the edge of the crowd, cheering them on. For a brief moment, Jake and Ryan locked eyes. In that shared glance, a pact formed not just of partnership, but of understanding. People began to gather around the truck, and one by one, they nudged forward to chat, ask questions, share stories. It was all happening. Jake felt a pulse run through him, a connection to the community he thought long gone, then a voice cut through, sharp and accusatory. What's this? A rich guy playing mechanic? The crowd fell silent at the unexpected confrontation. A tension rippled through the air, darkening the moment. Jake's heart sank, the balloon of hope bursting abruptly. The weight of judgment hung heavy on his shoulders. Would they really think that? Would Ryan's truth overshadow everything they had just begun to build together? Before he could respond, Ryan stepped calmly forward, ready to confront the challenge. It's not about where we come from. It's about what we can build together. Jake stood at Ryan's side, heart racing. This was the moment. Would they stand strong against the tide, or would fear drag them back to solitude? As they faced the crowd, waiting for answers to unfurl, an unexpected feeling surged within Jake, a flicker of determination that perhaps friendship could pave the way where judgments might fail. What would it take for Jake to stand his ground? Could he finally show the town the truth of who he and Ryan were, or would this moment shatter everything they'd just begun to mend? Moments stretched like taffy in the thick silence that followed the heckler's cutting remark. Jake could feel the weight of every gaze pinning him down, waiting for him to blink first. He wanted to slink back, to let Ryan take the fall, but a surge of something, pride? Courage? Rooted him to the spot beside his friend. A low murmur swept through the crowd. Faces twisted in confusion and judgment. Jake's heart sank deeper. He could practically hear the thoughts circulating, the whispers. What's this all about? Who does he think he is? Listen, everyone. Ryan called out, his voice steady against the tension. This truck isn't just a project, it's a testament to hard work, resilience, and a shared dream. Jake poured his heart into this. We all know what it means to struggle. This is not just a showcase of skill, it's a celebration of what we can all create when we stand together. Jake studied Ryan's expression. There was such a steady, unwavering strength in him. It inspired something warm in Jake, giving him the final nudge he needed to find his own voice. What Ryan said is true, Jake started, his words trembling slightly but gaining strength as he continued. This truck, it's not just metal and paint. It symbolizes everything I thought I lost. The friendship we have, the community we are part of, it matters more than you know. The crowd shifted, and he could see some faces soften, curiosity replacing judgment. Jake pressed on, desperation fueling his honesty. I've been through my share of hard times. I lost so much. But this, he gestured to the truck, this is a chance to rebuild, to start fresh. With each word, he felt himself peel back layers of his armor, revealing parts of himself he had kept hidden for so long. Faces glanced at one another, eyebrows lifting in surprise, understanding beginning to blossom amidst skepticism. What if this could be more? Jake continued, desperation transforming into hope. What if we could support one another in our struggles? This is about community, about finding strength in each other. I'm not trying to hide. I want to stand by you all, shoulder to shoulder. A murmur of voices broke out among the crowd, uncertainty fading as familiarity took its place. Who among them hadn't felt the sting of hardship? Little by little, Jake noticed nods, smiles, and even soft laughter ripple through the group. He turned to Ryan, who stood quietly but clearly proud, a silent encouragement brushing against him. They were in this together, no matter what the crowd initially thought. Suddenly, an unexpected figure stepped forward, a man from the crowd Jake recognized. Old Mr. Thompson, a gruff but kind man who had been around since Jake was a kid. "I've been hard on you, son," he said, voice cracking a little, "but seeing you like this? It takes guts. It looks good. We all have an uphill battle. I'd rather face mine with you." A wave of relief washed over Jake, relief that shifted into gratitude. With a nod, he pointed at Mr. Thompson. "Exactly. Let us not just watch each other, let us work together. We can learn, grow, and build something amazing here." The crowd began to warm even more, a collective energy building, pulling them together instead of apart. Jake's heart swelled, and he could hardly contain the rush of hope. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of applause. One clap turned into many, and soon a wave of support surged through the fairground. Jake stood there, soaking it all in, flooded with emotion, as laughter and camaraderie filled the air where tension had once hung. "What just happened?" Jake whispered to Ryan, awe in his eyes. Ryan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I think you just became the leader you didn't know you could be." But before Jake could respond, he spotted someone approaching, a familiar face from his past, a face he never thought he'd see here. It was his brother, glaring at him with a mixture of disbelief and anger. This was not just about friendship and community anymore. The stakes were quickly rising, and Jake knew he had to deal with the past boiling to the surface. How would he confront this new challenge? Would his newfound confidence hold against the flood of old wounds and unresolved hurt? Jake's heart raced as he locked eyes with his brother. Daniel's expression was hard, almost like a stone mask he hadn't seen in years. Blunt accusations swirled beneath the surface of that stare, a silent storm brewing where old grievances lurked. "Why are you here?" Daniel asked, voice low but dripping with disdain. It hit Jake like a punch, making the atmosphere around them choke with tension again. Ryan looked back and forth between the two brothers, worried. "Maybe this isn't the time, Daniel. No, it's fine." Jake interrupted, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. "No more running or hiding, right? I don't want to ignore anything anymore." He could feel the crowd's eyes back on them, pricked with curiosity again, a mix of concern and anticipation. Jake clenched his fists, unsure how to draw the words up from the pit in his stomach. "This is my moment and I'm choosing to face it." Daniel stepped closer, jagged and fully present. "This moment? You think this is brave? You're throwing some metal pieces into a pile of junk and calling it art." His tone dripped with scorn, thick enough to cut the air. "You let everyone down and now you think you can just play the hero?" Jake held his ground. "I'm not playing anything. This isn't about being a hero, this is real. I've fought my demons, just like everyone else here, and I'm tired of pretending." Each word felt like a wall he was building, piece by piece. A ripple of murmur washed through the crowd, many appearing to nod with understanding, minds connecting with Jake's struggle. "Pretending? You want to talk about pretending?" Daniel shot back, his brows stitched together. "You've faked being okay for too long, Jake. Just look at you putting on a show in front of these people." The words cut deep. It was that buried pain from all those years ago, unearthing old cuts that hadn't fully healed. Memories of hard times resurfaced, drowning Jake in doubt again. The weight of Daniel's disappointment loomed heavily, but he refused to let it pull him down. "Maybe you're right," Jake responded slowly, feeling the tension rise again, only this time, it was tinged with something else: determination. "I have faked it. I have worn a mask, but not anymore. I'm tired of feeling shame for the struggles I've faced. It's part of who I am. If I'm honest about it, I can start to rebuild." Daniel's face faltered just a moment, surprise flickering through his anger, but it was quickly replaced by a deeper scowl. Rebuild? You think this is building something? You're just stumbling around like a lost child. The crowd held their breath, unsure, feeling the intensity of raw family emotion flare up. Maybe a lost child, but one that's learning to take steps, Jake challenged, feeling the resolve inside him solidify. I'm not giving up. I'm asking for understanding, for support. Is that so much to ask from my own brother? Jake's chest heaved with emotion, the words spilling out from a place deep within. The atmosphere thickened, both electric and heavy, as everyone waited. Daniel's features shifted slightly, the tight lines around his mouth softening just a touch. Before he could speak, Jake continued, "You don't have to agree with my choices, but you know me. I'm better than I was. We can be better. If you want to talk, I'm here." The crowd began to murmur again, and a few people exchanged looks laced with reflection. Jake's eyes searched for Daniel's, trying to catch hold of that flickering bond they once had. Just then, a hand grasped Jake's shoulder, jolting him. It was Ryan offering silent support. "You did good," he whispered, squeezing gently, but the moment hung on the edge of resolution, the air crackling with anticipation. Would Daniel step into the light, or retreat further into the shadows of their past? What would it take to bridge that chasm? Jake took a deep breath, heart hammering in his chest. In that heartbeat, he sensed a decision, a crossroads, and felt the choice lay before both of them. He never imagined this gathering could lead to so much pain, yet so much hope. Would they be able to move forward together, or was this just the beginning of another fight? Before he could contemplate further, Daniel turned abruptly, storming away. The crowd simmered down, the applause replaced by a tense silence as they watched the fallout unfold, and then Jake wondered, could he rebuild not only with the community but with the brother he had once shared everything with? Jake stood still, his heart thumping loudly in his chest as he watched Daniel's back recede into the throng. A whirlwind of emotions churned inside him, pain, anger, loss, and an unexpected glimmer of relief. The crowd felt like a living organism, a mass of breath held and collective hope stretched thin, but it was all hanging precariously in the balance. Ryan's voice broke through the silence, a soft touch against the chaotic storm swirling around them. He gave a reassuring squeeze on Jake's shoulder. "You did the right thing, man." The words were a fragile lifeline in a sea of doubt. Jake turned to Ryan, seeking the reassurance he desperately needed. "But what now?" "He just walked away." I hoped I know." Ryan took a deep breath, the tension in his own eyes matching Jake's. "But you faced him. That's a step forward, not a step back. Sometimes, the hardest route leads to the best places." A gentle murmur rippled through the observers, people visibly sharing their own vulnerabilities. Jake felt something shift, not just within himself, but in the space around him. The shared struggle and understanding that wove among those gathered here tonight could potentially lead to healing. Jake paused and glanced over the crowd, their faces encountered through a kaleidoscope of emotions. It wasn't just him and Daniel anymore, it was about many others willing to confront their own battles. In that moment, Jake felt a flicker of courage. He took a deep breath and called out, "Thank you all for being here tonight. I know it's not easy to face the things we hide, to confront our fears, or to own our pasts. But look around you. We're not alone in this. Each one of us is fighting some battle, and it's okay to stumble while trying to find your way." As he spoke, he noticed a few heads nodding, people whispering encouragement to one another, and even a few tears cascading down the cheek of an older woman in the front. Her vulnerability lit something inside him. Maybe they didn't have all the answers yet, but they all shared the same human experience. Art, or whatever form it takes, is about truth, Jake continued, even more resolute. It's about real voices being heard. We can all choose to express our truth and support one another. Together we can create something beautiful from the chaos. The crowd erupted into soft applause, their appreciation resonating deeply with Jake. It was as if warmth flowed between them, melting the ice that Daniel still carried. But Jake knew this was only the beginning. He needed to face his brother again, to speak from the heart once more. Just then, he spotted the inkling of movement on the edge of the crowd, and his heart skipped. Daniel had paused, a few feet away, watching. For a fleeting moment, they locked eyes, an electric current pulsing between them. Jake felt the wall between them tremble. But before he could take a step toward Daniel, a woman approached him. A stranger, yet familiar in some way. She had an earnest smile, her eyes brimming with understanding. "That took a lot of courage," she said softly, making Jake feel both seen and strengthened. "You're inspiring so many people here." Jake opened his mouth to respond, but his heart raced more with the thought of the unresolved connection with Daniel. Suddenly, amidst all the voices, he heard that familiar and thunderous voice echoing back a decision he was sensing rather than hearing. Would Daniel open up, thawing the frozen past, and walk toward him? This was not just a moment for Jake, it was a defining moment for them both and for everyone watching. Jake stood at the intersection of hope and fear, wondering if this was the night everything would change. Would Daniel choose to share, or would the shadows of the past continue to hang over them? He felt the heat of expectation in the air. Would it be enough to break the silence this time? The air was thick with anticipation, the crowd almost holding its breath in a collective pause. Jake's gaze remained fixed on Daniel, whose muscles seemed taut, as if battling an inner storm. The sincere expressions of the audience faded into the background, drowned out by the chaotic beat of Jake's heart. Would his brother step forward, or retreat once again into the shadows? Jake Ryan's voice cut through again, a reminder of the support he stood behind. "Give him time." "It's a lot." Jake nodded, but couldn't he tear his eyes away from Daniel, who still lingered at the edge. The moment stretched long and heavy, the silence punctuated only by the soft hum of whispers around them. Then, Daniel finally moved. It was an uncertain step, shuffling forward as if wrestling with the gravity of their shared history. The crowd shifted, senses heightened, eyes darting between the two brothers. Jake's breath caught, a hopeful plea forming deep inside. Daniel's voice cracked, but there was a clarity in his tone. It was as if he were testing the waters of connection, a thread reaching out to Jake. I didn't expect to see you here." Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks, an emotional whirlwind of both anger and love swirling inside him. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to talk." "Can we do that?" Daniel hesitated, his lips pursing. But something flickered behind those tense walls, an understanding perhaps, before he finally nodded. For a brief moment, the world around them vanished. It was just the two of them, brothers standing on a brink, teetering between unresolved pain and the chance for something new. Jake took a step closer, his heart racing as he dared to reach for something they had both buried. "It's okay to feel hurt. We both lost something that night. I want to understand. I want us to be okay." The audience felt the weight of the moment, their murmurs calm. It was as if they were witnesses to the unraveling of years of regret and silence. Daniel's eyes glistened, realization dawning. "You don't know how hard it's been. It felt like I lost you. I pushed you away." Because his voice faltered, cracking under the pressure of revealing those hidden fears. Jake leaned closer, their proximity igniting something raw and real. "You didn't lose me. I've been here, waiting for you to say something. Anything." A tear rolled down Daniel's cheek, and in that vulnerability, Jake felt something break inside him. It wasn't just about their past anymore, it was about the love that persisted despite everything that had transpired. Ryan, watching from the sidelines, clasped his hands tightly, silently rooting for this moment. The older woman from before wiped her tears, spellbound by the connection unfolding before her, but as Daniel's breathing turned shaky, and his shoulders slumped, the air thickened with unspoken words. "I'm scared, Jake. I don't know how to fix what's broken." Jake's voice softened, passing through the distance like a balm. "Maybe we can figure it out together." For a heartbeat, they locked eyes again. Hope hovered in the space between them, so fragile yet vibrant with possibility. It was a glimmer of a renewed bond, a fragile thread that could lead them both back home. Just as Daniel opened his mouth to respond, a loud crash echoed through the venue. The crowd gasped, their moment of emotional connection startled into fragments. With concern rippling through the audience, Jake's heart lurched. What could possibly disrupt this fragile moment? In an instant, they shifted their attention away from each other, tension exploding into an icy grip. What lay ahead for Jake and Daniel now? Would they find their way back to each other, or would this chaos pull them apart once more? The crowd exploded into chaos, voices rising in a cacophony of shock and confusion. Jake and Daniel's moment, so delicately balanced, felt like it was fracturing under the weight of that sound. Jake's heart raced, adrenaline shooting through his veins as he turned to search for the source of the disturbance. A tall figure had stumbled into the room, knocking over a stack of chairs. Suddenly, all eyes were on him, the air thick with uncertainty. Jake instinctively moved closer to Daniel, scanning the crowd to find Ryan, who had shifted nervously, eyebrows knitted in concern. "Is everyone okay?" A woman shouted, but her words were swallowed by the rising tide of murmurs that washed over the audience. "Check on him," someone else urged, pointing towards the figure sprawled on the floor. It was a young man, his face pale, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and embarrassment. As if a spell had been cast, Daniel's focus shifted from Jake to this new crisis. "We should help him," he said, instinctively reaching out. Jake's impulse was to hang on to the fragile connection they were rebuilding, but Daniel's concern was palpable. It pulled at Jake's heartstrings. "All right, let us see what's going on." They both moved through the throng, Daniel stepping confidently forward while Jake followed close behind. The audience parted, uncertainty replaced by intrigue as the brothers approached the distressed figure. They knelt beside the young man, who was gradually picking himself up from the floor. "I'm sorry," he stuttered, his cheeks flushed. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I got overwhelmed. I thought I could handle it." Jake's gaze softened, recognizing the familiar look of someone caught in their own storm. "It's all right," he said, his voice steady. "We've all been there. Just take a breath." Daniel nodded, offering a reassuring smile. "You're not alone. We're here." The young man nodded, tears glinting in his eyes as he inhaled deeply. The connection formed in that moment was electric. The crowd murmured in understanding, sensing the shift from chaos to solidarity. Daniel squeezed Jake's hand, his grip tightening, a silent communication blooming between them. As the audience began to settle, Jake felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. "See? Even the worst moments can bring us together," he said, glancing at Daniel. "Yeah," Daniel replied, his voice softer now, even as the weight of their earlier conversation loomed. "Just like us." The young man smiled faintly, finally regaining his composure. "Thank you. Truly. You don't know how much it means." As he stood up, the applause began to ripple through the crowd, stirring the energy that had been lost. Jake turned to Daniel, heart racing not just from the tension but from newfound hope. Were they finally on the path to healing? But beneath that hope lingered unanswered questions. Could they truly reconcile after everything? Jake felt the heaviness of unspoken truths lingering between them, waiting to be acknowledged. "Let's talk later," Daniel whispered, breaking Jake's reverie, but Jake could see the uncertainty lingering in Daniel's eyes. As the show resumed, the air buzzed with energy, but Jake's gaze shifted to Daniel, who was momentarily lost in thought again. Jake pondered what this renewed connection would bring them, safety or more heartache. Just as the crowd began to relax once more, the buzzing whispers grew, hope and anxiety danced around them. One step forward, but how many back? What awaited them in the aftermath of this brief respite? Would they find the courage to confront their past, or would it slip away once more in the chaos of life? As the applause faded, Jake sat back on his heels, feeling a chaotic mix of relief and worry. The young man had regained his composure, but the moment of solidarity had only momentarily distracted him from the deeper issues he and Daniel faced. "Are you all right?" Daniel asked the young man, who nervously rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah. I think so, he replied, glancing at Daniel and then at Jake. I just got overwhelmed. This crowd, I didn't know they would react like that. Daniel smiled gently, his expression radiating warmth. It's okay. You did great. Sometimes things get out of hand, no one judges. With a soft nod, the young man's tension lifted slightly. Thanks, what's your name? I'm Daniel, he said, then gestured to Jake. And this is my brother, Jake. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Liam, he said, finally managing a shy smile. A sense of ease settled in Jake's chest as they exchanged polite banter, but the weight of his own relationship with Daniel loomed over him. The reality of their struggles was hard to escape even in moments like this. The echoes of laughter mixed with applause still rang in the air as Liam gathered himself. Can I stick around? I may need to talk more, he asked, glancing from Daniel to Jake. Of course, we'd love to have you, Jake responded, trying to warm his smile. That feeling of connection with Liam further stirred something in Jake, something hopeful yet precarious. As the show rolled on, Jake couldn't help but turn his thoughts back to Daniel. They were still so lost, still navigating a landscape of unresolved memories. Daniel's whispers still lingered in his mind. Let's talk later. But would later come before the night was over, or would another moment slip away like sand through their fingers? Hey, Daniel said suddenly, snapping Jake from his thoughts. I know this might be weird, but could we take a break? I want to talk, just us. Now? Jake asked, a hint of surprise creeping into his voice. Daniel nodded. I feel like we need to before we lose another moment. Okay. Let's find a place. Jake promised, the urgency in Daniel's voice igniting a flicker of hope. The brothers moved to a quieter corner near the rear of the venue, the noise of the crowd muffled but still present. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, anticipation and anxiety warring within him. As they leaned against the cool wall, Daniel looked down at his feet, then back up at Jake, his hazel eyes piercing. I've been thinking a lot. About us, what happened and what's left to happen. Jake swallowed hard, the raw edge of vulnerability weighing heavily. Me too. I want to. Before Jake could finish, Ryan stepped up, his expression serious. Hey, sorry to intrude, but I really think we should talk about what we're doing here tonight. All three men paused, switching their focus, but Jake's gut twisted at the interruption. Just when they had started to open up, a third voice entered the conversation, and he feared it would derail them altogether. Ryan, Daniel started, this is important. I get it, Ryan replied. But so is what we are here for. We can't forget that. Those words sent a chill through Jake. He couldn't shake the feeling that confronting the past was becoming a much heavier burden than any of them had anticipated. Jake could see Daniel's frustration building, while Ryan seemed steady, anchored in his own convictions. As they stood there, tension rising again, Jake knew they had to face not only their bond but also the reality of their relationship with Ryan, a complex triangle that may break them apart or bind them back together. Maybe we should. Jake hesitated, trying to gauge Daniel's reaction as much as his own, but before he could finish, the lights outside flickered and dulled, casting deeper shadows on their faces. Something was shifting in the air, a prelude to something they weren't quite prepared for. What did Ryan really mean? And would they ever find the right words to address the fragile thread holding them together? A low rumble of thunder echoed outside, hinting at a storm brewing both in the skies and in their hearts. Jake and Daniel stood at the crossroads of uncertainty, every heartbeat echoing with the weight of their hidden struggles. The crowd outside, once buzzing with cheers, was now an indistinct hum, lost in the storm of emotions swirling between the brothers. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a reminder of the tempest brewing outside and within. Ryan, please, Daniel said, frustration etched on his face. Jake and I need to talk about things that are bigger than this fair, bigger than us. Jake felt the weight of Daniel's words, a soft plea mingled with urgency. This was not merely about the mishaps of the night. It was a cry to reconcile their past and present, to confront the chasms that had grown between them. I understand that, Ryan replied, his voice steady yet concerned. But this night is also about healing. Your community needs you, guys. Maybe what I need more is to talk to my brother, Jake said, lifting his chin defiantly. The air electric with emotion seemed to vibrate around them as he met Ryan's gaze. Go on, I'll be right here, Ryan replied quietly, a hint of understanding crossing his features. As Ryan stepped aside, Jake turned to Daniel. We can't keep pretending, Daniel. I want us to move forward, but we need to face it all, the hurt, the misunderstanding, the loss. Daniel's expression faltered, his stormy exterior softening. Yeah, I've been thinking too. We dodged this for way too long. I'm scared of losing you, man. I thought if I pushed you away, it would hurt less. Jake swallowed hard, a knot tightening in his throat. But pushing me away only increased the hurt. We are family, and I can't keep feeling like we're miles apart. Please, don't shut me out anymore. The sincerity in Jake's voice cracked through the remnants of Daniel's defenses as he stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how to start repairing this, Jake. I don't want to hurt you again. Just start by being here. We've both been through so much, and we are not alone anymore, Jake said softly. Tonight, we've seen how community can heal. Let us start with each other. The murmurs around them faded as Daniel took a deep breath, the low rumble of thunder grounding him. Okay. Let us be real. This whole time, I thought I was protecting you by not confronting the past, but I see now that I was only hurting us both. Jake nodded, feeling layers of tension uncoil within him. Maybe we can help each other heal. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I believe it's worth fighting for. Daniel met Jake's gaze, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through the remaining fog of resentment. You've always been my rock. I've just been lost in my own storm. I'm ready to step into the light again, to be part of your life, no conditions. Just me, as I am. Tears welled in Jake's eyes, warmth flooding his heart. I'm glad to hear that. Let us lean on each other. Ryan stepped forward again, understanding written across his features. You're not just brothers. You're a part of something bigger now. You have a community that is ready to stand behind you. A faint smile broke across Daniel's face. Thanks for being here, Ryan. It feels like I've been holding my breath, thinking I had to take on everything alone. You're not alone, Ryan replied, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder. We're all in this together, through the storms. Suddenly, the first drops of rain began to fall outside, a gentle tapping on the venue's roof. It seemed to signal a release, a cleansing. Jake glanced outside, seeing people embracing, laughter bubbling up amidst the downpour, as if the storm brought a kind of energy that called for connection. Look! Jake exclaimed, pointing toward the gathering crowd outside. They're celebrating. Even the storm can't dim their spirits. Let us join them, Daniel suggested, a newfound determination in his voice. Jake nodded, exhilaration coursing through him. Yes. We'll face the celebration together. Let this night be the beginning of something beautiful for all of us. With unity stronger than any storm, the three men made their way through the venue and into the rain-soaked crowd outside. Laughter and applause enveloped them like a warm embrace. As the rain fell around them, the lines between past and present blurred, creating something new. They found solace not just in the celebration, but in the raw honesty of being together. Jake saw his kids smiling and dancing through puddles, Mary beaming proudly, and he felt a surge of strength. For the first time in years, he didn't feel weak, but supported. This place, filled with laughter and shared struggles, pulsed with hope. This community, this family had become a tapestry woven through trials and triumphs, threading them all together, and as Jake looked from Daniel to Ryan, he smiled, his heart finally at peace. There was so much work ahead, but tonight? Tonight was a victory. They had turned the corner, together, embracing whatever storms lay ahead. So, take this moment as a reminder of the importance of connection, of family, of standing together even when the winds hit hard. This is the time to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't hesitate, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of keeping this community alive through these actions.